In a significant legal development, 16 activists from the climate group Just Stop Oil are set to appear in court this week to appeal their sentences, which are regarded as some of the most severe ever handed down for peaceful protest in the United Kingdom. Their actions, which included damaging picture frames, obstructing roadways, and even discussions around obstructing traffic, have resulted in punishments that are typically reserved for serious criminal offenses. This stark reality raises profound questions about the state of civil liberties and the right to protest in a democratic society. Context of the protests. The Just Stop Oil activists have been vocal about the urgent need for the government to address the climate crisis, a pressing issue that has garnered increasing attention worldwide. Their protests aim to shine a light on what they perceive to be a governmental failure to take adequate measures against the underlying causes of climate change. In a time when climate scientists are ringing alarm bells and urging immediate action, these activists felt compelled to act in order to amplify their message. However, the sentences they received, some of which extend up to 5 years in prison, are shocking in their severity. Such harsh penalties for actions that are fundamentally expressions of dissent highlight a critical tension within modern democracies: the balance between maintaining public order and safeguarding the right to peaceful protest. Reactions from human rights organizations. The sentences have drawn widespread condemnation from various human rights organizations. Amnesty International labeled the penalties as draconian, emphasizing that they represent a severe infringement on the rights to free speech and assembly. Liberty, another prominent human rights group, described the situation as a grave erosion of freedoms. Global Witness characterized the sentences as a profound injustice, stressing the danger of criminalizing activism aimed at addressing existential threats like climate change. Furthermore, a special rapporteur for the United Nations articulated that these sentences are not acceptable in a democracy. This statement underscores the international community's concern regarding the implications of such punitive measures on the fundamental rights that underpin democratic governance. The broader implications for democracy. The harsh treatment of the Just Stop Oil activists signals a troubling trend in the United Kingdom, a nation that has historically prided itself on its commitment to democratic values, tolerance, and the protection of civil liberties. There is a growing fear that the country is drifting towards an oppressive state, where the distinction between politics and policing becomes increasingly blurred. In any healthy democracy, the right to peaceful protest serves as a vital indicator of civic engagement and as a safeguard against the encroachment of authoritarianism. It is a means by which citizens can voice their concerns, hold their government accountable, and advocate for change. The increasing criminalization of protest activities poses a direct threat to these fundamental rights. The right to protest, a vital democratic principle. Regardless of individual political beliefs or the specific causes being championed, the right to peaceful protest is essential for the functioning of a vibrant democracy. It provides a platform for marginalized voices and allows citizens to express dissent against government policies or corporate practices that they believe are harmful. The current situation illustrates how easily this right can be undermined when the state employs harsh measures against those seeking to draw attention to pressing social issues. Moreover, the implications of these sentences extend beyond the immediate context of climate activism. They signal a potential shift in how dissent is perceived and treated by the authorities. If peaceful protesters can face severe penalties for their actions, it may deter others from engaging in similar forms of activism, thereby stifling public discourse and limiting the diversity of viewpoints in society. The role of society and the media. The reactions to these sentences from various sectors of society, including the media, will play a crucial role in shaping public perception and response. Media coverage can amplify the voices of those advocating for change and help to frame the narrative around the right to protest. It is essential for journalists and commentators to highlight the implications of these sentences and to advocate for the protection of civil liberties. Moreover, public opinion can be a powerful force in influencing government policy. As more people become aware of the situation faced by the Just Stop Oil activists, there may be a growing call for reform and a re-evaluation of how dissent is treated in the UK. The recent sentences given to the 16 Just Stop Oil activists are unprecedented in their severity, especially considering the non-violent nature of their actions. These activists were imprisoned for activities that included the damage of picture frames and obstructing roadways, actions that typically would not warrant such harsh penalties. The sentences, some reaching up to 5 years, reflect a troubling trend in which peaceful protest is met with punitive measures more commonly associated with serious criminal offenses. ###The role of Just Stop Oil. Just Stop Oil emerged as a response to the urgent need for action against climate change, aiming to highlight government inaction on fossil fuel dependency. Their tactics, while controversial, are rooted in the belief that traditional methods of advocacy have failed to bring about necessary change. By disrupting daily life, they hope to draw attention to the existential threat posed by climate change and the slow pace of political response. ###Legal and political repercussions. The imprisonment of these activists has sparked a significant legal discussion. Many legal experts and human rights organizations argue that the heavy-handed approach taken by the courts undermines the fundamental right to protest, which is enshrined in various international agreements. The backlash has prompted appeals against the sentences, which are set to be heard in court this week. The outcome of these appeals could set a critical precedent for how future protests are handled within the legal system. ###Responses from human rights organizations. The reactions from organizations such as Amnesty International, Liberty, and Global Witness indicate a widespread concern about the implications of these sentences for civil liberties. Amnesty International has labeled the sentences as draconian, emphasizing the potential chilling effect on future protests. Liberty's statement regarding the grave erosion of freedoms resonates with many who fear that such judicial actions could deter individuals from exercising their rights to assemble and express dissent. Global Witness has framed the situation as a profound injustice, highlighting the disparity between the actions of the activists and the responses from the state. The United Nations Special Rapporteur's comments about the sentences being not acceptable in a democracy underscore the international scrutiny and alarm regarding the treatment of peaceful dissenters in the UK. ### The erosion of democratic norms. The severity of these sentences raises alarms about the erosion of democratic norms and the increasing difficulty of distinguishing between political action and policing. Historically, the UK has been viewed as a bastion of democratic values, where the right to protest has been a cornerstone of civil society. However, the current climate suggests a shift towards an environment where dissent is increasingly criminalized, raising questions about the future of political engagement and activism. ### The importance of peaceful protest. The right to peaceful protest is a critical component of any functioning democracy. It serves as a mechanism for citizens to express their discontent, advocate for change, and hold those in power accountable. The actions of Just Stop Oil should be viewed within this context. They are engaging in a form of civil disobedience intended to disrupt the status quo and provoke necessary discussions about climate policy. Peaceful protest acts as a safeguard against authoritarianism, allowing marginalized voices to be heard and pushing for systemic changes that may not be addressed through conventional political channels. When governments respond to peaceful dissent with harsh penalties, it signals a troubling trend towards repression rather than engagement. ### Public reaction in civil society. Public reaction to these sentences has been mixed. While some support the government's tough stance against disruptive protests, many others see it as an overreach that stifles legitimate concerns about climate change and environmental degradation. The debate within society highlights the tension between maintaining public order and respecting the rights of citizens to advocate for urgent issues. Civil society organizations, activist groups, and even some political figures have rallied in support of the Just Stop Oil activists, emphasizing the need for a more nuanced approach to protest and civil disobedience. The ongoing discussions reflect a broader societal reckoning with how best to address climate change and engage with those who challenge the status quo. ### The global context of climate activism. The situation in the UK is not isolated. It reflects a global pattern of increasing hostility towards climate activists. Worldwide, individuals advocating for environmental justice face threats, legal challenges, and violence. In many countries, activists are imprisoned or silenced, which raises concerns about the international commitment to human rights and environmental sustainability. This global context underscores the importance of solidarity among activists and organizations fighting for climate justice. The struggle against climate change is a collective effort, and the plight of activists in one nation can resonate with and inspire movements elsewhere. The upcoming appeal for the 16 Just Stop Oil activists represents more than just a legal battle. It is a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle for civil liberties, the right to protest, and the fight against climate change. The implications of the court's decision will reverberate far beyond the individuals involved, shaping the landscape of activism and governance in the UK, and potentially influencing global attitudes towards climate justice. As society grapples with the urgent realities of climate change, the conversation about how to advocate for change must continue. The right to #looking forward. The future of activism. The appeal by the 16 Just Stop Oil activists is not just a legal proceeding. It represents a broader struggle for the future of activism and civil liberties in the UK. The outcomes of their appeal could set important precedents for how similar cases are handled in the future. If the courts choose to uphold these sentences, it may embolden authorities to pursue further crackdowns on dissent. Conversely, a successful appeal could reaffirm the importance of protecting the right to protest and signal to both activists and the government that civil liberties must be safeguarded, even in the face of disruptive actions meant to highlight critical social issues. The case of the Just Stop Oil activists serves as a crucial reminder of the delicate balance between maintaining public order and preserving democratic freedoms. As the world grapples with the urgent reality of climate change, the right to protest remains a fundamental pillar of democratic engagement. The reactions from human rights organizations and the consequences of the upcoming court ruling will be pivotal in shaping the landscape of activism and civil rights in the UK for years to come. By engaging with these issues, society can work towards a future where the voices of those advocating for change are not only heard but respected, ensuring that democracy remains vibrant and inclusive for all citizens. The struggle for justice, equality, and environmental sustainability is inherently tied to the right to protest, and it is imperative that this right is protected and upheld in the face of adversity.